Welcome to the cockpit. My name's Ryan, and I'll be your pilot today. Welcome to the final pre-game stream, Jets Patriots. But I want to talk about an important topic first. So you guys that are clicking here for the Zach Wilson info, let's get the Zach Wilson info out of the way, and then we will talk about the Jets Patriots game. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you guys. Hope you had a healthy, happy New Year, Christmas, Hanukkah, all that good stuff. We are getting pounded by snow up here in the Northeast. I just spent the last hour and a half of my day shoveling, and it looks like I didn't even make a dent. There is so much snow outside right now, and it's so much relative to, like, you know, what we normally have. It's first snow of the season, really. But I want to get into it. Topic on the day. New York Jets to trade Zach Wilson in the offseason. I want to talk to you guys about how this has been the plan since last March. This was decided. This was probably the plan since last year, realistically. There was no long-term plan for Zach Wilson to actually be a New York Jet, and this was all window dressing for the last little bit here. Before we hop into that, let's go over to Ian Rappaport's comment on Zach Wilson. We'll listen to that, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Meanwhile, the New York Jets have put Zach Wilson, their former starting quarterback.
Let me see. I did not put the audio on. I don't think. Nope, of course. All right, let's try that again.
Meanwhile, the New York Jets put Zach Wilson, their former starting quarterback, on injured reserve this week, and the likelihood is that he's played his last down with the Jets. My understanding is this offseason, they're expected to seek to trade Zach Wilson, moving on from a pick that simply did not work out well. So you say, how could the Jets trade him? I would say this: every quarterback gets traded. I do not expect them to cut him.
So the Jets are not expected to cut Zach Wilson, and I would be very upset if that were the case. If the Jets were to actually move off of Zach Wilson by way of cut, it doesn't make any sense. The Jets would wind up eating $5 million, and that's the money you need for a backup quarterback anyway. But before we talk about the Zach Wilson, experience or the situation that we had the last, 3 years now, I want to talk about why I believe this was the plan the whole way through. Going back to, you should go back to last year when we started wearing the Mike White t-shirts and the team was all hyped up around him, and then they didn't think they were going to have to go back to Zach. They were done with Zach at that point. They were like, all right, we got to figure something out. We're getting Derek Carr. We're getting Aaron Rodgers. We're getting someone this offseason is going to be the quarterback, not named Zach Wilson next year. He'll at least get a red shirt year. Well, they got Aaron Rodgers. And I believe full on, 100%, that this was always the plan, at least since March, when they went out to go talk to Aaron Rodgers before free agency to determine what the level of interest in the New York Jets was. Remember, the Packers wanted to get a king's ransom, or at least a lot of compensation for a player that's a four-time MVP quarterback. So why were they trying to get so much when this guy was seemingly ready to retire? I went into the darkness retreat, 95% retired. I came out, I heard all the rumors. Aaron Rodgers knew damn well that the Packers were shopping him before he went into the darkness retreat. And I called it at the time. I said, Aaron Rodgers is lying to all of us right now, saying that all of a sudden now they're talking to other teams about trading me. And I don't care that he lied about that because he's using it as an internal form of motivation, but that's what it was at the time. It was a lie. He knew damn well the Packers were going to move off of him. He knew damn well he wasn't going to play one season in New York. So all those people that are saying, oh, the Jets are trading 2 second-round picks or a first-round pick and a second-round pick for a quarterback that's only going to play one season, I told you didn't have to worry about that. We've since heard Aaron Rodgers say, oh, I'm committing to at least 2+ years. That commitment was made when the Jets pulled the trigger back in March. This is why there was so much contention over Aaron Rodgers and the trade compensation, is because he didn't want the Jets to give up a ton of compensation to the Packers, knowing he was going to be there. Why would he want to come to the New York Jets when all our assets are stripped away? He might as well stay in Green Bay at that point. So the plan was never for Aaron Rodgers to come in here for a season. And the plan was never for Zach Wilson to develop and become this great franchise quarterback that the New York Jets want him to be the moment they decided to trade for Aaron Rodgers. They made the decision to keep Zach Wilson because they thought they could recoup his draft stock this year. I said it at the time. We are going to try and fluff up Zach's trade value through preseason, through hype videos, through all this commentary in training camp where he's progressing so much faster. He's hitting wide open wide receivers. He's not getting pressured by anyone, but don't worry about that. He's actually looking good in training camp. And honestly, I was at training camp. I thought Zach actually did look good. Zach looked like he was progressing, which is making this all so much more frustrating. But the Jets knew at that point. They're like, hey, if we frame this as this is to benefit Zach, and we are 100% behind Zach right now. He's on our roster. We have to at least say publicly anyway. It would be foolish for us to cut him because it's going to cost us more to cut him than it would be to do anything else at that point. So we're going to back Zach. We're going to back him 110%. But you know what? We're going to say Aaron Rodgers is only here for, it's a year-by-year thing. We don't know. But remember, I said come the offseason, Zach will have looked so good behind Aaron Rodgers. And we're not moving off of Zach because he has been terrible as a New York Jet. We are moving off of Zach because Aaron Rodgers is committing long-term, which we already knew. The Jets and the front office 100% knew that Aaron Rodgers was committing beyond this year, which means it made no damn sense to exercise Zach's fifth-year option after this season because we're not going to pay him $25 million to be a backup quarterback. So the Jets knew when they were getting Aaron Rodgers. The Packers knew when they were trading Aaron Rodgers that Aaron Rodgers was going to be playing for a few more years. The issue and the critical part that all came crashing down was Aaron Rodgers got hurt the fourth snap of the season. And what happened at that moment, and I would say even maybe before that, was that the Jets made a very conscious decision was this is Aaron's team. It does not matter what happens to Zach at this point. Hopefully he shows out and we can, get even more trade value because now that he's actually playing again, we could actually get more draft compensation than how he looked against the Jaguars last year. And you know what? It's not a bad idea. It's kind of the only plan you had. But you know what? The Jets were perfectly cool flushing everything down the toilet. Offensive lineman? Nah, we don't need to go after and get offensive lineman because that would hurt the probability of us winning long-term because we're pushing money into next year and we're bringing in players we may not want to bring in when we can be getting a higher draft pick. Oh, wide receiver, we need extra help. Oh, we'll trade Mecole Hardman away because Aaron Rodgers isn't here. Oh, Corey Davis retired. Oh, well, we're not going to bring in anyone extra to try and replace that. We're going to let two undrafted free agent rookies come in and do that, which is fine. I got no issues with Gibson or Brownlee. I'm happy that they're on the team. But we did not go over and above because it was Zach Wilson. We had all the excuses in the playbook right now. Zach didn't have an offensive line. Zach didn't have wide receivers. Zach is clearly not the problem, which I think a lot of Jet fans could actually look at the season and say offensive line, penalties, play calling, wide receiver, probably all four of those are bigger issues than what Zach Wilson was for the Jets this past year. And Zach was never given a fair shake this season. At least it doesn't feel like it was this season. And, he was handed the job. He was never given any kind of competition. The only competition that was brought in was Trevor Siemian. Zach goes on to have the best game of his career, or up to that point. The game after Siemian's brought in, but he's never brought in as like the backup to actually push Zach any further. So it's this whole weird, convoluted, confusing mess. And the Jets, what I'm trying to say is, this has been the plan all along. We knew damn well we were trading Zach. There was no opportunity for the Jets to make Zach a franchise quarterback. And what's frustrating to me is I'm looking out there and someone's going to get the benefit of a pissed off Zach Wilson, which, maybe he's just not an NFL quarterback. Maybe maybe the career backup is his future. That's entirely possible as well. The kid was taken number 2 overall for a reason. All the top draft boards had him as the number 2 quarterback for a reason. And the Jets, for whatever reason, decided rookie head coach, rookie offensive coordinator, and then failed head coach, failed offensive coordinator. I shouldn't say failed offensive coordinator, but Nathaniel Hackett's offense pretty much looks pretty failure-esque. And we just didn't really do anything to try and develop Zach any further other than bringing in his idol in Aaron Rodgers. So I think this has been a conscious decision since the very beginning. I don't think there was any real reclamation project for Zach Wilson for the New York Jets long term. And now we're going to have to go back and say, do we want a backup quarterback? Because now we get to the trade side of things. Should the Jets trade Zach Wilson? People are going to say, look, what are you going to get for him? He's been horrible. Rappaport said he expects him to be traded, not be cut. And that's because the upside is still there. Someone's going to throw away a 5th, a 6th, a 7th round pick to get Zach Wilson. Now, I don't want the Jets to eat any of the cap space for that. For us to get any type of late round pick, you want the Jets to eat the cap space? Get me a 2nd or a 3rd round pick. I don't think that's going to be on the table for the Jets, but Why on earth would the Jets eat any salary cap for Zach Wilson to get a 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick, which is not going to help you this year? More likely than not. Very rare that those picks impact the season that they're drafted. But you know what would help us? We need a backup quarterback. And you know what happens when Aaron Rodgers commits to 2+ seasons with the New York Jets? All the good backup quarterbacks are saying, well, screw that. I'm not going over to the Jets because I don't have an opportunity to be the heir apparent. I want Jacoby Brissett. I want Gardner Minshew. I want someone of that caliber to be the backup to Aaron Rodgers. But now that Rodgers is committed, why would any of those quarterbacks want to come here knowing that they are stuck behind Aaron Rodgers? They're not going to be able to take over. They're not going to have their Geno Smith level, experience to happen unless the Jets decide they're going to trade Aaron Rodgers. But that seems very, very unlikely given everything that we've gone through. So when you start looking at that next tier down of quarterback, or, before we look at that, you now have to overpay for one of those quarterbacks, which I think most people would probably be all right with given the high expectations for next season and how spectacularly we failed this season. Although, again, I would say I'm not so sure the quarterback was the problem this season as much as the other 4 problems. So how much are you willing to pay for a backup quarterback? Not even just a backup quarterback, but how much are you willing to pay for that next tier down? Because you're already paying Zach Wilson. So, for me, I would prefer to keep Zach Wilson as the backup than get a late round pick for him. Now, unfortunately, the relationship has withered away so much, and the Jets tend to have a very, very good track record, bad track record, I guess, of having this happen. It's the same thing to some degree that's happening with Bryce Huff. The Jets are going to lose Bryce Huff for nothing. We are not going to get a single solitary pick for Bryce Huff. Not a comp pick in 2025, not any pick this year. We are going to let him walk for free because of the incompetence of this regime. We said last year, Bryce Huff, we could negotiate a reasonable long-term contract with you. You've done well. You're a situational pass rusher. But you know what? We'd rather another team try to steal you from us for a second-round pick. We think the second-round pick is so much more valuable than you are to this team that we're not going to give you the financial security of having a reasonable contract. We're going to get you with the second-round tender. First-round tender would have implied we want to keep you. Second-round tender says, get out of here, we want the pick. Oh, and by the way, we're going to draft your replacement in the first round of the draft. He's not even going to be an impact on our Super Bowl season that you're here for. Remember that Super Bowl dream that you had, Bryce Huff? Well, we're not doing anything in the first round that could possibly help that situation either for this season. So Bryce Huff, he's going to be walking out the door. Zach Wilson, we still need a backup quarterback. We're going to pay him to be on someone else's roster when he has 2 years or going to have a year under his belt in the system behind the quarterback he loves. And it's a bad move. I'm sorry. I think it's a bad move. It's purely because we have eroded the relationship. And I think that's why you have to do it. And to take another step further, how we are pissing off our young players. Garrett Wilson, for as great as he has been, has not made a Pro Bowl. And Garrett Wilson, I believe, is one of the top wide receivers, not only in the AFC, but in the NFL. So if we had competent play from the quarterback position or from our offensive staff or from the regime or whatever, Garrett Wilson's probably making the Pro Bowl in some capacity. Do you know what is tied to the 5th-year option? There's 4 levels of 5th-year option. There's the bare baseline 5th-year option. Then there's you have hit the playing time threshold, which is another tier up. Then the next 2 tiers, 1 Pro Bowl, 1+ Pro Bowls. By Garrett Wilson not making the Pro Bowl as a New York Jet, he is getting the worst, not the worst, he's still hitting the playing time 5th-year option. He's losing $6.6 million because the Jets can't figure their shit out. If you're Garrett Wilson, you got to be steaming at this. You're looking at guys make the Pro Bowl, and you're sitting there $6.6 million in the hole because the Jets can't figure their shit out. You could do everything right, and you are getting screwed by the Jets. Bryce Huff had it happen to him. Zach Wilson and the fans are having it happen to him. It's brutal. It sucks. It's absolutely awful. Now, the same thing doesn't happen necessarily with Breece Hall because he doesn't have a 5th-year option, so it's not as critical for him, and he's probably the beneficiary of all this because the Jets have sucked so much that it's he's going to have to get paid after next season because Jets aren't going to let him go into a lame duck year in his 4th year. But this is what's going on with the Jets. We erode relationships to where we have to make poor decisions for our franchise. Bryce Huff, Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson is going to get frustrated by all this. Sauce, now he's made 2 Pro Bowls. Sauce is going to get the beneficiary. He's going to be the beneficiary of that 5th-year option and Pro Bowls. But man, dude, this is like, Jets really screwed this up, and I'm super frustrated about it because I think there's a lot of benefit the Jets could have had to all this. So all that's to say, Zach Wilson is going to be traded in the offseason. I don't expect us to get a lot. I expect the Jets to eat some salary cap space to facilitate a trade. It could be like we'll eat the contract and you give us a conditional 7th-round pick. Like, that might be what we end up doing, and then still have to go out and sign a backup quarterback that now doesn't know the system. Oh, it's brutal. All right, boys and girls, I want to hear from you guys. So pop your comments in the chat. I want to go over to Jimmy. Hey, what's up, Jimmy? Thank you so much for the super chat. He says, I will miss these pregame shows after the season. You are the best place to go for Jets news. Looking forward to your draft party in April. Go Jets. Jimmy, I am so grateful to have you guys and everyone else that's watching in here. I think we got over 200 some odd people. It's greatly appreciated. I have a great time doing it. I love talking with everyone. And honestly, being out in the sticks where I am, I don't have a whole lot of Jet fans here. So you guys are my de facto family and Jet family as well. So I greatly appreciate it. I like to have a lot of fun with it. And I'll definitely bring some viewers on as well because it's a good time. The offseason is where I cut my teeth. Literally, the 5 years that I've been doing this channel, every single offseason is always bigger than the in-season stuff. So we're just getting cooking over here on Jets Talk 24/7. And I'm looking forward to the draft party. We got some big news for the draft party. I shouldn't say big news. Not big news yet. Maybe. We'll see. But I'll keep you guys in the loop on that. Brian, what's up, Brian? Thank you so much for the super chat. He says, we ended the post-bye loss streak. We beat the Eagles this year. I'm fine waiting till next year to end the Patriots and playoff streak. Go for draft position. Brian Bogan talking about the tank versus the win scenario. It's a weird situation for the Jets today. Jets versus Patriots. Patriots, if they lose, get the number 2 pick, more than likely. If the Patriots win, then they fall back to probably pick 4 or 5. So it kind of depends on what other teams do here. The Jets, if we win, I mean, we could fall back. The highest percentage chances are the Jets sitting at 7, 8, 9, or 10. That's really what we're talking about. The Jets could get as high as 5. They could fall back as far as 12, but those are much smaller percentage chances of that actually happening. But that's what's on the line. If the Jets lose, there's a really good chance we're not moving a little bit higher in the draft standings as well. So it's weird. It's like, all right, well, we lose, but we don't move better. So then we should win. But us winning will hurt us more in terms of draft position, and it will help our division rivals. So the Jets are in this weird, or fan base, I guess the fan base is in this weird sort of situation of, do we hate Bill Belichick more or do we hate the Patriots more? And I think there's not really any wrong answer because the answer is yes. I hate both of them. But if you hate Bill Belichick, he is currently 27 wins behind the all-time win record, Don Shula. 27 wins. If you do math, if he doesn't win this game today, he has 27 more wins over the course of the next however many years to beat that record. That's probably going to be at least 3 seasons. If you beat him today, you might require him to do 1 more extra year of service. Like, imagine being at your ripe old age of retirement. You're like, oh, okay, I'm going to ride off into the sunset this year. And then something catastrophic happens. And then you have to do a whole nother year of work to attain the same level that you would have done the year before. That shit sucks. It happens to people all the time. And it couldn't happen to a better fucking scumbag than Bill Belichick. That's what I want to have happen to him. But on the other side of things, he's gone. He's out of New England after this year. I don't think they're bringing him back. It sounds pretty dead set that they're not going to. In which case, he's out of our hair. Does 1 in 15 make you feel all warm and fuzzy about Bill Belichick? Probably not. I can wait on the other side of things to beat the Patriots next year in a season that it matters because their fans want to lose. They want the draft pick. I want what could hurt them more and could help us more. Bill Belichick's going to try and win this game because if the Patriots try to win and he winds up going to, say, Washington, who currently owns the number 2 pick, he's gift wrapping himself the quarterback and forcing the Patriots to then trade up if they want to get the quarterback a choice. And he gets to stick it to the Jets one more time. I hate the Patriots. I hate Bill Belichick, but this is where we find ourselves. And you know what? Fans that are saying, oh, you have to win every game. If the Jets start winning earlier in the season, fans don't root for losses. You want to solve the tanking problem? Win some fucking football games. Ugh. Get me all frustrated. Brian, that's all to say that you weren't going this direction on this. But yes, could we end the streaks this year? We could. Ended the Eagles streak. We ended the playoff or the post-bye streak. We can't end the playoff streak. Let's end 2 more streaks next year. I see Connor calling in. Connor, I'll get to you in just a second. I just want to get over to some of these super chats, and then we'll go a little bit into the calls. I'll listen to what you guys have to say. What is up, Mutt Viles? Mutt Viles comes in and says, all I ask is whoever we draft at quarterback, make it last. Make it the last one. We also Garrett Wilson better get a bag like DeAndre Hopkins did in Houston. Who do we want at quarterback, Ryan? Rodgers is going to make a Pro Bowler in Garrett. So I do think Garrett is probably not losing his mind, because at the very least, he should make the Pro Bowl next year with Aaron Rodgers. At least you would really hope so. As far as quarterback goes, you reset the clock this year or you reset the clock next year. It's got to be one or the other. I think this year in the middle rounds, I don't think I'd use a 3rd round pick on one. I would consider it. I think you would consider it. But I think 4th, 5th round, somewhere that's like some high upside guy. You know, he's got the metrics, but maybe he's not quite there. Like, forget trying to see Penix or Daniels or May or Williams or any of those. Jets aren't going to go after a top-end quarterback. But someone like the kid from FSU, I've heard people talk about Pratt and some other quarterbacks around the college football landscape that could be a little bit further down the board. I'd be all right with that. I could make a move with that. I think mid-round is where we got to go. Brian comes in and says, how are you not an assistant GM with all the contract-related useless knowledge you have? Brian, if a team would like to have me come in, at least talk some contract news, like, you don't need me in charge of making decisions, but like, I got pretty good handle on like the financial side of like the salary cap implications. Now I'm sure there's like inner workings that like I don't have any sort of privilege to, and I am not in any capacity qualified to do that other than me purely liking this sort of stuff. But man, I could pretend to be a GM. Do that. I do that every offseason anyway. And I love it. I enjoy it. We're going to do a whole bunch of mock off seasons this year. I think what I want to do is I'll start each mock off season by saying, what kind of mock off season do you want to see the Jets have? Like, we'll do one where we get a backup quarterback earlier. We'll do one where we get backup quarterback later. We could do one, trade Zach, whatever, all that good stuff. Plastic Wax. What's up, dude? Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Says Ryan is more worked up about the Jets than getting the snowblower out this morning. Dude, I get more worked up about the Jets for stupid reasons. Like, I let this team dictate far too much of my emotional state on a week in, week out basis. And I feel like you guys are at that same sort of threshold as well, because we are fans. We are fanatics. It is in the name. It's literally, we are fanatics. So the snowblower, I love the snow. I used to work at the ski resort, and I'm a big skier and snowboarder. So anytime it snows, and this is the first snow of the season, plus it's the first time I get to see Shay out in the snow. Ren's not really moving. She's just kind of sitting there in like a little bear outfit that we put her like in the snow in. So that was cool. So there's a lot of like fun sides of stuff. I hate snowblowing. I got to get a new snowblower, because the one, thank you, Lou, God rest your soul, gave me a snowblower when I moved into my house a few years ago, and has worked great. And by worked great, I mean like it gets snow off my driveway occasionally, but it's too narrow and doesn't really throw snow. Like, I could be 2 paths down my driveway, 2 paths meaning the width of a snowblower, and it can't throw the snow onto the bank. So it's getting to a point where I'm kind of chugging along. It took me like an hour and a half to do a driveway that should not take you an hour and a half to do a snowblow. Very frustrating. Very frustrating. But thank you so much, Plastic Wax. Jimmy comes in with another super chat, says, totally understand about the Sticks. I grew up in Vernon, New Jersey till 2014. They are all Giant fans up there. Hang in there. Jimmy, did you know that's where I live? I live up in the Sticks. I grew up in Warwick. I was a big, well, I shouldn't say big, but Warwick, I grew up in Warwick, wound up moving down to Riverdale, New Jersey, and now I'm in Vernon, so I'm actually near the ski resort and everything. But it's fun. It's definitely out there. I wish we had fiber optic internet. They're running the lines for it right now. But yeah, everyone on this side is like Giants fans. Growing up, I had like 3 Jet fan friends that spanned across a few different grades. It wasn't like there was Jet fans all over the place. That's why when the Jets are good, like when the Jets actually have some winning seasons and you start seeing people wear their Jet gear out with pride, it is cool. It feels like a whole like community. When the Jets were winning those playoff games late 2000s, early 2010s, it was so much fun to see just how much of a community we had, and that's kind of what I've gotten from doing this channel too. It's been a lot of fun. At least there's some energy behind it. But yeah, dude, the sticks, not a whole lot up here for sure. Douglas says, I'm hoping they end up keeping Zach Wilson just to watch heads explode with a substantial percentage of the fan base. Yeah, I don't want to seem like I'm beat up over losing Zach Wilson, because that's not what I'm trying to articulate. What I'm trying to articulate is that we are so goddamn awful with these personal relationships with players, or with mapping out our plans, that you could just see through the bullshit. The Jets had no intentions of keeping Zach Wilson beyond this year, dating back to last year. They were just trying to recoup as much draft capital as they could from a bad draft pick, or from a bad decision or bad grooming of said draft pick, whatever it is, however you want to frame it. I think the relationship is so far gone that Zach Wilson, the Jets probably hurt themselves more by keeping him hostage as a Jet than they do just getting rid of him at a loss. And what sucks is the Jets are just always seen in the bad light. We either were poor at developing quarterbacks, we draft bad quarterbacks, or we have this weird situation of I don't know if it's just getting rid of players too early, or just moving off players, or making poor decisions. It's really frustrating. And then we got the turf to battle. The players already vote our stadium the worst stadium to play in the league, and we got high taxes. Dude, we're behind the eight ball on a lot of stuff. Our media is very tough to deal with compared to other forms of media. Our fan base is probably maybe a little more rabid, or maybe it's more amplified. Our fan base is probably more amplified by our media, thus making our fan base seem a little more irate than maybe some other fan bases around the league. High taxes, poor decision-making, poor field, just behind the eight ball on it all. JT, what's good, dude? Coming in with Super Chat, says, what a season it's been. I didn't think I'd have to break out my Jets Talk Just End the Suffering shirt this season. JT, thank you for supporting the show. If you guys want to get a Just End the Suffering t-shirt, I do have that available over on the website, jetstalk.com. More than welcome to plug the shirt. And thank you, JT, for wearing it. I was really hoping, dude, I thought playoffs were here. I threw $100 on the Super Bowl. I never bet on the Jets to win the Super Bowl. I'm probably going to throw another $100 on it this year, because I like burning $100 consistently. What I should do is I should bet on the Jets to win the Super Bowl, and I should bet the Jets to lose every single week. So that way, at least I hedge the bets, and then I feel like although I guess I'm probably throwing away money on losses, because we're going to win so many games next year. Dude, I wish I didn't have to think about just ending the suffering. But again, we just like it. Hate it. Boys and girls, I'll throw the call-in number on the screen once I find it. Where did I put it? Boom. If you guys would like to call in, we'll do a little bit of phone call questions. I want to hear from you guys about Zach Wilson. I want to hear about you guys about the Patriots stuff. I want to hear about maybe some offseason stuff, what you guys got going on, how was your New Year's, all that sort of jazz. We'll do this till about 12:45 or so, and then I'll hop off. I'll go watch the game. So we got about 20 minutes, give or take here. Let's see. Take a look at some comments. Brian Bogan says, no more USC quarterbacks. I would tend to agree. I don't really like Caleb Williams as a prospect, I'll be honest. The Juice Main says, should keep Zach. He is relatively cheap. Still, Rodgers ain't getting hurt again. So I would keep Zach and just hope, because we're going to bring in so many free agents this year that our contracts will probably prevent us from getting free agents next year. So I would rather let Zach walk for nothing and have our backup quarterback for next season than trade him for a loss, eat the draft pick, and still have to sign a backup quarterback anyway. I think it's purely a relationship side of things as to why we're moving off of him than anything else. Still need stuff. All right, we got Lassell on the line. Let me hop over to the panel. Lassell, how are you doing today? You've muted yourself. Can you unmute yourself?
I just wanted a quick question.
Sure.
Who would you rather get in the draft when it comes to quarterbacks in the late rounds? Joe Milton or the JJ McCarthy guy?
JJ McCarthy, I think, is going to go a lot higher than people think. I think his floor might wind up being the Raiders in the second round because I do think that Jim Harbaugh is going to make his way to Las Vegas. As far as like late round quarterbacks go, Milton out of Tennessee, you'd probably have to take him in the third round, maybe fourth round. Honestly, I'd have to do more research on those mid-round quarterbacks to feel
Because,
confident one way or the
because
other.
yeah, because I'm just because I'm thinking like if we win and lose this game, trade back in the draft or whatever, trade back in the draft because we're gonna get an early-ish round pick anyway. You know what I mean? So just trade back and get a second round pick that way.
So
Which is
I
kind
do
of like
like
the
the
reason
idea of
why I
trading
don't know.
back. Go on.
What? And I
Yeah.
was because I was really hoping.
Mm-hmm.
I'm conflicted because I don't know if I should root for the.
Lasso, too much stuff going on. Can't hear you. Hearing other people on the phone. Call back in. Would love to talk to you. Just make sure you have all your stuff figured out on your end. Oh, Kurt, I was just about to go to you. If you call back in, I'll head back over that way. All right. If you guys would like to call in, number is on the screen. I guess before I do that, I should go over and talk about the lovely sponsor of our channel, and that is Underdog Fantasy. If you guys want to get in, try to win a little bit of money, this week there is a $20 entry. You don't actually have to put $20 down on this. You can put $1 down on it and still get the same percentage of, I guess, winnings. But this, as a $20 entry, is a $2,000 payout. And if you use promo code JETS247, the Underdog Fantasy people, they will match your first deposit up to $100, and it supports the channel. They continue wanting to sponsor this channel. So by you trying to make money, helps me out that way, and I don't get any sort of like kickback as far as like anything you do on the app itself. But this is where I'm going with this. I am going to choose to think sloppy mess today. I think Bailey Zappi for the 2x higher on fumbles. So I think he has at least one fumble. I think Trevor Siemian has at least one fumble. So those are easy multipliers for me. Breece Hall, they are going to try and get him the ability to have either 1,500 yards or 10 touchdowns or whatever it is. They're going to do whatever they can to get Breece Hall the ball today. Not to mention the weather is going to dictate that. So I think he is going to get into the end zone. Tyler Conklin, lower than 27.5 receiving yards. That is purely because of the weather and where I think they're going to try and focus their efforts, and that's going to be on Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. And then Garrett Wilson, I think he's going to go higher on receptions, 4.5. I would have taken the under on targets, but I think I'm going to go the over on the 4.5. So if you want to throw $20 on this, you can win $2,000. If you want to bet $10 on it, you can win $1,000. And as I keep going down, I kind of figure out what the math is in my head because I didn't plan this pre-show here. But if you guys want to support the channel, Underdog does a lot of stuff beyond just football as well. So if you like doing some of these sport prop contests, that stuff goes on into baseball and hockey and basketball throughout the offseason. So we'll be talking about it throughout the offseason. So thank you so much, Underdog, for sponsoring the channel. Again, that's promo code JETS247. Let's head over to Kurt. Kurt, how you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there as best I can. I was out shoveling all that snow that we got last night. Are you in the area? Like, did you get dumped on with snow? Or are you like a satellite fan?
I'm kind of in the area. I'm in the Philadelphia area, so we got like 2 or 3 inches. It wasn't a whole bunch last night, so just enough to be a nuisance. You know what I mean?
Yep, I hear you. Just enough to break out the snow gear.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I just wanted to touch in on some of the stuff you were saying about with like Zach Wilson and how you team tank or team win for today. Just the way the Jets have kind of fumbled this season. It's been tough to watch, man. I've been a Jets fan since I was like 8 years old. The Curtis Martin days is really when I got into it. And just to see the way our organization has handled just everything over the past 20 years that I've been a fan. It's been tough to watch, man. And I hate to see what we did with Zach Wilson. I think the kid's got so much arm talent. He just has a hard time reading a defense, and I feel like that's a lot of our fault, just not developing him the right way. And I feel like I said the same thing about Sam Darnold, but it's a little different this time with Zach Wilson. I feel like we might see him actually go somewhere and be successful. And like I was saying to my buddies as well, like this offseason is going to be the offseason of the backup quarterback with all the injuries we've seen and, all the backup QBs that had to step up and actually take their team to the playoffs. Almost Gardner Minshew, and then with the Steelers and Trubisky and Kenny Pickett and stuff. I think this will be the
Flacco.
year. Yeah, Flacco too. I think this will be the year of the backup quarterback, and to think we're going to get rid of Zach Wilson, a guy that knows our system, and trade him for what, like you said, a 4th, 5th round pick that won't do anything, man. It's just disappointing to see.
It really is, and I don't know how to break this cyclical situation other than just we need success. We need to start winning, and Rodgers needs to have that success next year. And hopefully this quarterback that we bring in, we're not pressuring him to then start because we have an Aaron Rodgers right there. And then ideally you have a backup quarterback where this kid doesn't even have to think about starting. Like, I don't want the drafted quarterback to be the backup quarterback. I want him 3rd string.
Right, exactly. Have him holding the clipboard. Have him just sit back and learn. And I would say I have a buddy that's a Packers fan, and I was like, man, that's honestly one thing I feel like the Packers have done better than any other team over the past couple decades is you draft a quarterback, you sit him for a few years behind another good quarterback, and then you bring him in. Not saying Jordan Love isn't the prodigy or anything by any means, but he didn't look bad for his first full season starting.
I completely agree. Kurt, thank you so much for the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit. Always fun to get you guys to call in. If you guys want to call in, I'll take calls for about another 13 minutes or so. Connor, if you're out there, more than welcome to call in, although I think you're probably gearing up for the game at this point. It's all good. I understand. Let's see. Let's go over to some more comment questions. Where did I put my little window here? That's what happens when I have too many windows up. If I didn't have the monitor I have, I would be even more jacked up than I already am. Let's see. The Wedge says, no, that is Joe Flacco. Go Jets. I don't know what that was in reference to. Jimmy says, we'll see how McCarthy plays tomorrow in reference to where he winds up getting drafted. If he plays well, I think he's probably looking at the top 100. I don't think he's going to crack into the top. I shouldn't say not the first round, because if I think he could go the top of the second round to the Raiders, then I think the Raiders could trade into the back of the first round to get him as well, so that way they get the benefit of the 5th-year option. It depends how much Harbaugh likes McCarthy and if he actually does go to the Raiders, because maybe maybe Harbaugh decides to go to LA to the Chargers, and then they're probably not going to take a JJ or something like that. So a lot of his draft stock kind of depends on possibly where Harbaugh goes, and also if he lights it up or stinks in tomorrow's game. Disinfo says, don't expect too many fumbles with deflated balls. Talking about my underdog prop selection for today, saying that both Trevor Siemian and Bailey Zappi will both have fumbles lost. I think you are going to see it today. I really do. Matthew says, satellite fan, I'm in New York and we have gotten no snow, all rain. You are probably in New York City, I'm assuming. Or maybe Long Island. I actually have no idea where this storm, how it traveled up. I'm in southern New York, I'm in North Jersey. I could throw a rock and hit the state of New York. So I'm curious to see where you got all rain. Usually the city, this side of the Appalachian Mountains tends to be warmer than obviously the other side. It's like a 3-degree difference from what I've seen. Used to live on the other side. So let me know where you're at. Let's go over to Edward and hear what Edward has to say. Where am I going? Edward, how you doing, brother?
How you doing, Ryan? Long time no see.
I'm hanging in there. I know it's been a while.
Yeah. I'm in North Carolina. I am currently on I-40 driving into Cary so that I can see the Jet game at the Jet Bar. One of
Ah,
the
pretty
guys
cool.
in our Jet Bar is actually Richie Southern Jet.
Oh, no way. That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, Richie Berger. Yeah, he's one of the founders. We've been going to these to the whichever Jet Bar of the year we go to. We've traveled. We've been to about 4 or 5 different places in the 20 years that I've been a member of the Central North Carolina New York Jets fan club.
Mhm.
So,
That's very cool.
but
I love seeing the community that we have across the United States. Like people calling in from Florida, calling in from like Texas and North Carolina, and like literally all over the place. It's good to at least have those satellite phones, like I was just talking about
yeah,
earlier.
I know Jake Asman has this one guy calls in from Australia.
Oh yeah, we get Australia, we get London. I've had Brazil. I think I had Argentina before. Very cool.
Anyway, I only have 3 minutes, and it's probably halfway done. Here's my feelings on the whole Zach Wilson thing.
Mm-hmm.
We screwed up. He's a decent enough kid. He's got some talent, and we failed him. With that being said, he failed himself too. It's not
I
all
agree.
on us. He and I feel bad because he really tries to study as hard as he can. He is a worker. There's never ever been a complaint that he doesn't work hard. So you got to love him for that. And I think Joe Douglas's biggest fear was that if he cut him loose too soon, he was going to go somewhere else with a better training situation, and he was going to blow the doors off the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But Zach has had one bad thing happen. I mean, with Coach Knapp dying that first season, I mean, that was like, oh my God, probably the worst thing that has happened to this franchise in about 15 years.
That was a
That's like the worst
really
thing that's happened
it's
since
such a
Dennis
what
Bird's
if.
neck injury.
It's one of those what if situations too, because like you don't know how Zach could have progressed. We saw what happened without him, but how could it have been with him is such a critical thing. And I want to touch on the we failed him and he failed himself. I completely agree. There's plenty of situations where Zach shot himself in the foot, but I agree with you on the Joe Douglas didn't trade him last offseason. One, for the financial flexibility of it all, and two, I think there's a real fear that he could get traded and go to a team and look really good. And we're
The
going to look
kid
even
has
worse.
talent, no doubt. The kid has the talent. It's all between the ears with him. All between the ears. And
I
our O
completely agree.
line is horrendous. And I think the biggest problem with our team was the offensive line coach, because he was hated in Tennessee and he's hated here. And
Oh
every
yeah.
time we find out a guy gets hurt on Friday at practice because he doesn't know how to properly coach.
I
How many
completely
times have
agree,
you
Ed.
seen a guy?
Ed, keep
Yeah,
your
I mean, how
eyes on
many
the
times
wheel.
have you
You've
seen
been
a
ejected from the cockpit. Sorry, Ed. Keep your eyes on the wheel. I've got Cisco and I've got Nick coming up. I just want to head over to John's Super Chat. Thank you so much, John. Greatly appreciated. He says, as someone who has played the sport, I can't physically root for a loss. I think ending this streak will give some positive vibes to the end of the season. However, if we lose, at least we get a better draft pick. Win-win for me. So I have a really hard time thinking that there's any positive vibes coming from a failed season with a win at the end of the year. Like, how many positive vibes were had because we beat the Rams in 2019? It didn't carry over. We got Zach Wilson, and we've lost the most amount of games. We have been the worst team across 5 years, and we haven't earned the number one pick. It's wild. We have the worst team for 5 years over that 5-year span, and we can't earn a number one overall pick. But I understand. You can't root for a loss from playing the sport, and players and coaches, they have to play to win. I tend to lean on the other side of things. Like, if you want positive vibes, win early in the season. Not these games that don't matter at all against players and teams that are kind of going into a self-preservation mode. It's a win-win. It's also, it could be a win-win or it could be a lose-lose, because you wind up beating the Patriots. It's like, oh, this is great, but we've hurt our draft stock. And does it actually mean anything if the Patriots fan base is happy that we beat them? The only person you're probably pissing off with a Jet win is Bill Belichick, because he now has to win one additional game than he needed to. I don't know, man. It's interesting. Interesting conundrum we find ourselves in as fans. John, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's head over to Cisco. Cisco, how you doing today, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great. I just want to start off by saying I love what you do. I'm new to everything on this, and you give me hope. You give me hope.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out and being a part of the community. So what's your
No
mind? What's on
problem,
your
no
mind for this game?
problem. So, listen, I'm over it. The season has killed me. I went to the home opener against Buffalo. I was at the game. Seeing Aaron Rodgers go down was terrible. After that, I'm like, it's over. Season's over. They put all their eggs in one basket, and it did not help. They
No,
did
and
not do
they
any
compounded it
adjustment.
by not trying to rectify it after. I mean, they seemed reserved at the beginning of the season, like, all right, it's Rodgers, and if it's not, oh well, lost season. We're not even going to try. Like that. That's what it felt like.
It was terrible. It was terrible. Yeah, I don't even know who to blame. Like this is a whole list. It goes from the top to the bottom. Like great defense, but the quarterback situation has been terrible for how long? Like I would say my last favorite, Chad Pennington.
Oh yeah,
Like
gee, I love Chad. And it sucks to think back and oh man, we got rid of Chad for this Green Bay Packers quarterback, and Chad wins the division. Like, wouldn't it be poetic justice to get rid of Zach Wilson because of a Hall of Fame quarterback and Aaron Rodgers, and then Zach goes on to win someone else's division next year? I'm gonna pull my damn hair out if that happens.
definitely. I just want one of your thoughts on this whole. I've been seeing Garrett Wilson talking about wanting to leave and all this stuff. What would you think about trading him and getting some value?
I would be so mad. He is such a good person and such a great player. And we haven't drafted a wide receiver of his caliber since Keyshawn Johnson when we took him number 1 overall. And we wound up trading him and we got 2 first-round picks. I mean, it did set us up for what the 2000s wound up being as far as Chad Pennington and John Abraham and Sean Ellis and the success we had. But I feel like you can have far more success with someone like Garrett Wilson in the building. Now, my big fear is that he's constantly liking C.J. Stroud comments from Houston, which obviously his quarterback in college, there's not necessarily anything nefarious there. But when you look at Houston and no state income tax, and Garrett Wilson is from Texas, I think there's a very strong likelihood that he's going to want to end up there when all is said and done and this contract is up. And I said earlier, I don't know if you caught this in the stream, but because the Jets offense has been so anemic, we are actually hurting Garrett Wilson's financial future because part of those fifth-year options, there's 4 different ones. There's the baseline, there's the playing time, there's 1 Pro Bowl, and there's multiple Pro Bowls. And Garrett Wilson, I believe, is a Pro Bowl caliber player with just baseline quarterback play, and it's a $6.6 million difference from the 5th-year option he's going to receive and the 5th-year option that he's missing out on from having 2+ Pro Bowls. So he really needs to ball out with Aaron Rodgers next year, because if not, you're running into a situation where you got to pay him a lot of money, and he may not necessarily want to be here. It's scary.
Exactly.
I don't love it. Cisco, thank you so much for the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit. Let's go over to Nick T. Nick T, how you doing, brother?
Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Hanging in there. How are you?
So I'm here in Miami, actually, for a work trip.
Very cool.
And it is quite embarrassing to try and talk about getting the Jet game on the TV down here.
Oh, I'm sure they're like, dude, they've been blacked out up in New York. Why would we show it in Miami?
Let me tell you something. This whole city is overrun with Bills fans.
I do love that. That makes me feel good.
I have never seen so many. Even Newark Airport was crowded with Bills. It's crazy.
Wouldn't it be great to have a Jet fan end of the season? Matt and Greenbean, we were talking about doing a group buy for the final game of the season in Foxborough. Let's go win the division in New England. And that ended the first week of the season.
I know. Well, wishful thinking, right? Wishful thinking. So, yeah, I didn't catch the beginning of your show, but, Wilson, again, anything we can, I kind of agree with the previous caller, anything we can get for him at this point, if it helps net us a 5th-round pick or something along those lines where we can maybe use that to get Devontae Adams or pair that with, a mid-round pick, something to get something of value, I think that anything's a plus at this point.
Yeah, it's
aside
a
from
sunk cost, right? Like you've already wasted the draft pick, and at this point, you're either committing to continued poor play or the hope that it might turn around. Getting something for him that could help you moving forward is probably the correct move at this point.
So I got one for you. I got a good topic because we always talk about how many negative free agent signings do we have.
I
So
want to hear it. Let's go.
and I actually might want to get in on this if you end up doing a video on
Okay.
it. But top 5 all-time free agent signs for the Jets. Positive. I got my 5.
I'd have to
think
really drill down and think because I'd probably have to limit this to my time as a fan. I don't remember when they switched over to like actually having free agency, but it was definitely a little bit before I actually started watching.
Yeah, I want to say early 90s.
Yeah, I think it was like 92, 93, somewhere in that realm, like right before the Cowboys or right as the Cowboys were like winning, I guess.
So just to give you a spoiler, so my top 2 are right now Curtis Martin and Vinny Testaverde. If you look at the stats,
Curtis
Martin,
was a trade, I think. Didn't we have to give up a pick for him?
If I recall correctly.
He was a transition tag. Is that right?
I
think we gave up picks to get him.
We did give up something because it was right when Parcells first came over. It was like that time, and I have him 1, and I have Testaverde right next to him as 2 because that 98 team. If you look at the stats over the course of a 4-year period, Testaverde was unbelievable in terms of
I was at the game when Testaverde popped his Achilles, and I was at the game when Aaron Rodgers popped his Achilles. So I'm like, son of a bitch! Like I shouldn't be going to games anymore.
Before I go, how do you have Testaverde at the same game doing the coin flip? If I had known that, I would have just said it.
I found that out after, like, I think the next day when I made the video, I was like, you got to be kidding me. It's like when they had fucking Joe Namath hand the Patriots the fucking Super Bowl trophy on the 50-year anniversary of him winning the Super Bowl. I was like, what are you doing? Like, why? This is going to be awful. Nick, thank you so much for the call. I'm excited to talk a little bit about the offseason free agent acquisitions. Before I get over to Rob, I want to pull up Mike's super chat, but I want to think real quick about my top free agent signings for the Jets without doing any kind of research right now. Off the top of my head, DJ Reed's got to be pretty high up there. We don't really have too many free agents that work out like really well. That was one that hit well. God. Braylon Edwards was a trade. Cromartie was a trade. Free agents. I'm going to have to look at that further. I don't know. Santonio Holmes, I see you guys make that point. Oh, Brandon Marshall's a good one. Andrew, that's good. The Juice Man says Tomlinson. I was thinking about LaDainian Tomlinson. I like that, but I feel like there's probably better free agent acquisitions than just LT. Brandon Marshall's a good one. Eric Decker's a good one too. Ryan Fitzpatrick was a trade. Really good. Mike D says, what's up, Ryan? Struggling to get myself to even watch this shit today. At least it's over after this. Yeah, I'm not interested in watching the game. I'm interested from like, I guess a channel. If I didn't have a YouTube channel, I may not be watching it. It's going to be a stinker. I see Forte in there. Forte's a good one. Bart Scott's a good one. Chris Ivory's a good one. Wow, got some good names in there. Good stuff. All right, let's go over to Rob, and then we'll wrap this up real quick. Rob, how you doing today, brother?
Hey, Ryan. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm hanging in there. I just had to shovel my driveway. Got like a foot of snow out there.
You have that much?
Oh, yeah. It's got to be close. And it's coming down like crazy, too. So it's like, I'm going to have to do it again.
Where do you live?
I'm North Jersey. So I'm like on the eastern side of the Appalachian Mountains. And like once you get over, or no, I guess on the western side.
I thought you lived in on the island, I thought.
No. I'm in Jersey. I'm like 45 minutes from the stadium. What was that?
Jersey all your life?
Well, I moved to Jersey. I grew up in Warwick, New York, so I guess I've been a New Yorker my whole life, but it's like everyone in my area commutes to New York City anyway, so I just sort of like Jersey is kind of New York up this way.
I hear you, buddy. Okay, I'm calling just to say that I'm kind of like fed up with with Wilson. I think it's kind of time for him to go. I do agree that he has all the talent in the world. I do
Mm-hmm.
believe he does. He's
Mm-hmm.
got a live arm. I mean, he can throw like teardrop passes that most quarterbacks cannot do.
Yeah.
He seems like everyone is like in college and he's still in high school. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't fit in between the brain, like
He's so
here. I mean,
young. That's what kills me is like if he can develop. I think he's younger than Penix right now.
yeah, he is.
That's
That's the
crazy.
funny thing. But I
Yeah.
mean, like that guy Bo Nix, if he was available in the middle rounds, I would take a waiver on him. What do you think of
Sure.
him?
I like
The
him.
guy,
I don't love him as much as some of the earlier quarterbacks, but when you're starting to talk like third, fourth round,
yeah,
if he's
um,
available there, I like the kid from FSU, Travis. I think he would be pretty interesting to bring in.
he might go
Ewers,
higher.
if he's hanging around, I don't know. I guess it's well, he's got I think he's got a broken ankle right now, so I think third round is probably where you could get him. I can understand if the
Yeah,
Jets want to make the quarterback pick in the third round. I'm kind of hoping for the fourth round, just from a pick allocation standpoint, but I wouldn't be upset with it.
why the fourth round? Why do you want to wait till the fourth? I'm just curious.
Just because I think we can still get a player that can help us this year in the third round. Like I would go if we could go. I keep saying offensive line in the first round, but I think there's a real good shot we're going with either Bowers or a wide receiver. I think we're going to go with a weapon because that can help the offense this year, where an offensive lineman might take a year or two. And I think maybe taking the tackle in the third round might be the better move and have him sit behind a Bakhtiari or something like that.
I think if they pick up obviously a Mike Evans, which I would love,
Yeah, me too.
uh, D. Adams I think is going to cost too much, and
Mm.
Jake loves T. Higgins,
I'm a
which
big T. Higgins guy. T. Higgins is the guy I'd want. I think from a financial standpoint, his contract would impact the ability to re-sign Garrett Wilson a little bit more than Mike Evans would. Mike Evans, I think at the very least you can bring in
that's
and yeah, it's going to be a 2 or 3 year contract, which aligns with Aaron Rodgers, and I feel like that's more important to me than like some of it. But if you could figure out a way to get T. Higgins, I mean, he's the guy I would want.
yeah. I would probably go for in a financial part Mike Evans first, and then
Mhm.
draft an O line. I think that's the route that we have to go, and then I
Yeah.
would pick a quarterback in the middle rounds. They have to take a waiver on a quarterback. Like
Mhm.
Jake said, you got to throw something on a dartboard and see if anything sticks.
100%. Rob, thank you so much for the call. You've been
Yeah.
ejected from the cockpit. Let's go to Ryan real quick. We'll do one more right here. Ryan, how you doing, brother?
How's it going?
Hanging in there. Just trying to get myself amped up to watch this horrible game that we're about to watch.
So I had a question about how do you feel about maybe drafting Cam Ward if he falls to the third round?
Cam Ward. I don't know anything about Cam Ward. I'm going to be honest with you right there. I have only recently started doing my draft analysis. What is Cam Ward?
He's the Washington State Cougars QB. He did go to the transfer portal, but then he decided to enter the draft.
Interesting. So
He has
he's Washington State. He's 6'2", 223 pounds. He's going to be in the Shrine Bowl. And it looks like this year had 3,700 yards, 27 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions. It's a good ratio. Without actually like watching tape on him, Dom has him projected as a third or fourth round quarterback. So that's honestly the area I'd want to take a quarterback, I guess. But I honestly haven't watched him.
Yeah, he's pretty quick on the feet. I mean, his size is not the best, but
I mean, anyone that's going to sit behind Rodgers for the next 2 years has got to be able to produce better results than what we've gotten out of Zach Wilson the last 3 years, I would think. High upside guys. That's really what I'm looking for at this point. This is a quarterback that you're going to be taking in the mid rounds that hopefully is quarterback 3. I don't want this kid to be one injury away from starting this year, ideally.
yeah.
Now, is there any other direction you want to see the Jets go in the earlier rounds? I know you mentioned quarterback in the mid rounds, but are you thinking like wide receiver, offensive line in round 1, or trade down?
I'd definitely say wide receiver.
Hmm.
Like, I'd like to see maybe if we could get Malik Neighbors, but I feel like
Yeah.
that's going to be.
Part of me, the more I watch, and I was so against Bowers to begin with, but Bowers out of Georgia, if he can block like your extra offensive lineman, and if he can catch around the line of scrimmage because your offensive line is so bad and he's a huge body target, like Bowers, I think, is becoming more and more appealing to me as I kind of like work my way through the offseason in my head. And if he can be special here, the issue is that tight end, the value at the top of the draft is just so astronomically small. It'd be brutal if it didn't wind up working out. But Douglas isn't going to be here to deal with those repercussions anyway if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, the O-line definitely is something that needs to be fixed. I think might be able to pick up a decent wide receiver in free agency.
I hope so. That's kind of where I'm angling as well. Ryan, hoping for a win or hoping for a loss today?
Win.
Oh, Ryan, going for the win. You've been ejected from the cockpit. Boys and girls, thank you so much for hanging out with me here for this little pregame stream here. I'm going to go throw the game on downstairs. I'll be back. I'll do the post-game. We'll talk a little bit about the wrap-up of today. I'll have some videos coming out the next few days over like recapping the season and things like that. But just try to enjoy your day off and watch some football. Stay warm for those of you guys dealing with snow. I will see you guys at halftime over on Green Bean's channel because I'll be hopping in over there with him. This is Jets Talk signing off. JETS.